So this is the book I have, the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, and this translation is from Swami Mukti Bodhananda. I'm sure there are 90 different translations, so as we progress, it's a very thick book. You guys will read your translations. Okay, Swamiji on Hatha Yoga, or Hatha Yoga. In yogic literature, we have a number of reliable texts on Hatha Yoga. The Hatha Yoga Pradipika by Yogi Swatmarama is a very well-known one. Another by Yogi Gorakhnath is known as Goraksha Samhita. A third text is Garand Samhita by the great sage Garand. Besides these, there is a fourth major text known as Hatha Ratanavali, which was written later by Srinivasabhata Mahayogi Nidra. All these texts are considered to have been written between the 6th and 15th centuries AD. There are also minor references to Hatha Yoga in the ancient Upanishads and Puranas. The Upanishads date back earlier than the Buddhist period, which was around the 6th century BC. The references made in the Upanishads indicate that the science of Hatha Yoga was known well before this period. There is another very important text known as the Srimad Bhagavatam, the story of Krishna. In that voluminous book, there are references to Hatha Yoga in several chapters. Evidence of Hatha Yoga has also been found in the pre-Columbian culture of the Americas. Even now at St. Augustine, a southern province of Colombia in South America, there are large stone figures and carvings depicting Hatha Yoga principles and practices. However, the systematic form of Hatha Yoga began to emerge in India sometime in the 6th century AD. This gives us a glimpse of the historical aspect of Hatha Yoga. For centuries, these books have guided spiritual aspirants. Many sects were also formed in India, Nepal, and Tibet on the basis of Hatha Yoga. What is the subject matter of these books? Is it just to maintain a youthful body or obtain psychic powers, siddhis? Or is it to develop the capacity to awaken the potential energy, kundalini, and attain supra-consciousness, samadhi? As we analyze these texts carefully, the purpose becomes very clear. In ancient times, Hatha Yoga was practiced for many years as a preparation for higher states of consciousness. Today, however, the real purpose of this great science has been forgotten altogether. The Hatha Yoga practices, which were designed by the rishis and sages of old for the evolution of mankind, are now being understood and utilized in a very limited sense. Often we hear people say, "Oh, I don't practice meditation, I only practice physical yoga, Hatha Yoga." Now the time has come to correct this point. Hatha Yoga is a very important science for humanity today. The culling of Hatha Yoga. By the 6th century AD, a lot of spiritual evolution had already taken place in India over many centuries. Two great men were born in India in the 6th century BC. One is known internationally as Buddha, and the other was Mahavir, the founder of the Jain, is that how you pronounce it? Jain sect, a tradition in Indian culture. Both of them performed severe austerities and both also preached nonviolence, ahimsa. Finally, Buddha formulated his teachings, which are known as the Four Noble Truths. Two of Buddha's systems became widely known all over the world. One is known as Vipassana, and the other known as Anapanasati, contemplation. For this, Buddha laid a basic foundation called the Eightfold Path, which was a system of ethics more or less like the Yama and Niyama of Raja Yoga. As the result of Buddha's popularity, meditation became the main form of spiritual practice on the entire subcontinent. However, the preparatory practices were ignored. Ethics and morality were very much overemphasized. It was at this time that the thinkers of India began to reassess Buddha's system. Indians believe that meditation is the highest path, but they disagree on one point, that one can start meditation immediately. Instead, they believe one has to prepare oneself. 500 years after Buddha and 100 years after Christ in India, at Nalanda in Bihar, a great university was established in the Buddhist tradition, devoted to the Hinaya system. Hinaya means the narrow path, i.e. the orthodox Buddhist system. Many thousands of students from all over the world came to study religion there. However, there was another group amongst the Buddhists who did not agree with the orthodox interpretation of the teachings. They thought that it was not what Buddha himself had preached. So they established another university called Vikramshila, 80 miles east of Munger in Bihar, which became the teaching center of the Mahayana tradition. Mahayana means great path. They were not orthodox Buddhists, but open-minded liberal Buddhists. In that Mahayana tradition, they also began to include Tantra. However, this was not something Buddha had directly preached about, so Orthodox Buddhists did not believe in it. From Vikramshila, a sect arose known as Sahajayana, the spontaneous way, and Vajrayana, which includes the sexual matters between a man and a woman. So the practices of tantric sects were very much misinterpreted by Orthodox people. After about 500 years or so, the popularity and influence of Buddhism declined, and so did these tantric sects and their practices. Then in the 4th, 5th, and 6th century AD, after the period of Buddhist decadence in India, some great yogis took the science and set out to purify the tantric system. Matsyendranath, Goraknath, and a few other yogis in the tradition found that this important science was being ignored by serious-minded people and being wrongly taught by others. So they separated the Hatha Yoga and the Raja Yoga practices of Tantra from the rest and left out the rituals of Tantra altogether, not even mentioning them. When they called the practices, they picked up the useful, practical, and noble practices of yoga from the tantric system. At that time, it became necessary for them to classify some of the unclassified instructions in Tantra. Although Buddha was a great personality, his teachings later remained merely what we call psychological experiences. Therefore, it became necessary to reintroduce a proper system of meditation. That is how the system of Hatha Yoga was established. It was at this time that Matsyendranath founded the Nath cult, which believed that before taking the practices of meditation, you must purify the body and its elements. This is the theme of Hatha Yoga. So you guys want me to keep reading? Good. Science of purification. On the many authorities of Hatha Yoga, one outstanding personality, Swatmarama, who compiled the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. It can also be translated as light on Hatha Yoga. However, the term Pradipika actually means self-illuminating, or that which illumines. It is the text which illumines the multitude of physical, mental, and spiritual problems for aspirants. Goraknath, the chief disciple of Matsyendranath, had earlier written books, poems, and prose on the Hatha Yoga system in the local dialect, but Swatmarama compiled the entire wisdom of the Hatha Yoga in Sanskrit. In common with other texts, he has expounded techniques such as asana, pranayama, and shatkarma. The beauty of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika is that it solves a very great problem faced by every aspirant. Swatmarama has completely eliminated the yama moral codes and niyama self-restraints, which are the starting points of the Buddhist and Jain systems, as well as Patanjali's Raja Yoga. Patanjali was a contemporary of Buddha, and his system of yoga was influenced by the Buddhist philosophy of yama and niyama. In the Yoga Sutras, he divided Raja Yoga into 8 steps. Yama and niyama are the first 2, followed by asana and pranayama. Yama is the inner observances, niyama are the outer observances, asana is the physical practice, and pranayama is breath work. And then come pratyahara, the act of moving inward, dharana, which is concentration, dhyana, which is meditation, and samadhi, which is enlightenment, which are the final 4. Patanjali's contention is that you have to first perfect yama and niyama, otherwise asana and pranayama may fail to give you desirable results. What are yama and niyama? Self-control, rules of conduct and observances. Well, good thing we studied all this already, huh? They skip over it. Truth, non-violence, celibacy, non-stealing, aggrandizement, external and internal purity, and contentment are some of the regulations. However, the authors of texts on Hatha Yoga, such as Swatmarama, were very much aware of the practical difficulties every person faced in relation to yama and niyama. Moreover, yama and niyama have more to do with religion than with a person's spiritual life. Experience has taught us that in order to practice yama and niyama, discipline and self-control, a certain quality of mind is needed. Often we observe that when we try to practice self-control and discipline, we create more mental problems in our mind or personality. If we were to take this statistics of patients in mental hospitals, we would find that most of them are religious because self-discipline and self-control split the personality. Therefore, before you try to practice self-discipline and self-control, you must also prepare yourself. If harmony is not created in the personality, then self-control and self-discipline will create more conflict rather than peace of mind. Therefore, the principle of antithesis should not be taught to everyone. It has always been expounded as a philosophical or religious principle, but from the spiritual standpoint, it has mercilessly failed to assist man when confronted with the dilemma of his own evolution. So this will be interesting, hearing a different lineage. Emphasis on Shat Karma. In the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, the first thing we see is that Swatmarama does not worry at all about self-control or self-discipline in the form of yama and niyama. The order here is very different. He begins by saying that you should first purify the whole body, the stomach, intestines, nervous system, and other systems. Therefore, Shat Karma comes first. Neti, Dauti, Basti. So neti is you take the neti pot and you put it through your nose. Dauti is a form of like churning the organs. Basti is you put like sections of clay with oil. I'm pretty sure Basti. Or is no, I'm sorry, Basti is when you put the rubber tubing through your nose. Kapalabhati is pranayama. Tritaka is meditation where you focus your eyes on a candle. And Nali, which is another like churning pranayama. Hatha Yoga begins with these practices. However, Shat Karma alone does not constitute the whole of Hatha Yoga. After Shat Karma, you should practice asana and pranayama, self-control and self-discipline. Start with the body. That is much easier. Asana is discipline. Pranayama is discipline. Kumbhaka, retention of the breath, is self-control. Sit in Padmasana, lotus posture, for 15 minutes. That is self-discipline. Why do you fight with the mind first? You have no power to wrestle with the mind. You wrestle with it, thereby creating a pattern of animosity towards yourself. There are not two minds. There is one mind trying to split itself in two. One mind wants to break the discipline, and the other mind wants to maintain the discipline. You can find this split in everybody. When the split becomes greater, then we call it schizophrenia. This danger was clearly realized by the authorities and masters of Hatha Yoga. Therefore, they said, first discipline the body. They explained that what they meant by the body, the subtle elements, tattvas, the energy channels, nadis, within the body should first be purified. The behavior of the vital force, prana, or energy, the entire nervous system and the various secretions in the body should be properly maintained and harmonized. After this, one should go on to practice mudras like Rajoli, Sahajoli, Kechari, Shambhavi, Viparita Karani, and others. In this way, talking about mudras, some of them are like your tongue rolling into the back of your mouth and like certain yoga postures and certain hand positions. So like a whole yoga posture, yoga pose can be considered a mudra. These practices will induce pratyahara and lead to dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. The aim of Hatha Yoga, in order to purify the mind, it is necessary for the body as a whole to undergo a process of absolute purification. Hatha Yoga is known as the science of purification. Not just one type of purification, but 6 types. The body has to be cleaned in 6 different ways for 6 different impurities. When you clear the body of these impurities, the nadis function and the energy blocks are released. Then the energies move like wave frequencies throughout the channels within the physical structure, moving right up to the brain. Therefore, we consider Hatha Yoga as the preliminary practice of Tantra, Raja Yoga, Kundalini Yoga, and Kriya Yoga. When the rishis discovered the science of Hatha Yoga, they did not have yoga therapy in mind, although yoga has proved to be very effective in the treatment of many impossible and incurable diseases. The therapeutic effect of yoga is only a byproduct and incidental. The main objective of Hatha Yoga is to create an absolute balance of the interacting activities and processes of the physical body, mind, and energy. When this balance is created, the impulses generated give a call of awakening to the central force, Sushumna Nadi, which is responsible for the evolution of human consciousness. If Hatha Yoga is not used for this purpose, its true objective is lost. The interplay of the inner energy. In order to make the subject clear, it was termed Hatha, i.e. Ha and Ta Yoga, a combination of 2 bija mantras. It has been explained in Hatha Yoga that Ha represents prana, the vital life force, and Ta represents mind, the mental energy. So the Hatha Yoga means union of the pranic and mental forces. When union between the pranic and mental forces takes place, then a great event occurs in man. This is an awakening of higher consciousness. Prana Shakti, the life force, and Man Shakti, the mental force, are two fundamental creators. Every object in the universe, right from the smallest atom to the largest star, is composed of these two Shaktis or energy. When they interact with one another, when the interplay of these two Shaktis takes place, then creation begins to unfold. When the two Shaktis are separated from each other, they dissolve back into their source, then creation is dissolved. That is the great pralaya, i.e., the total annihilation of matter. In the field of physics, also, they speak along the same lines. All matter in this creation is alive. This is the first point. It is also conscious. This is the second point. Therefore, everything has potential consciousness, and everything is alive. In yoga, life and consciousness are known as Prakriti and Purusha. In Tantra, they are known as Shakti and Shiva. In Hatha Yoga, they are known as Ida and Pingala. In Taoism, yin and yang. In physics, matter and energy. They have their own names in different times and different philosophies. This physical body, as it is seen in the gross perception, if you look at this body with psychic eyes or the eyes of a specialized and sophisticated electronic equipment, perhaps you can understand that it has its own subtle counterpart also. What happens internally whenever you start to think? If you have never thought about it, please start thinking now. What is thought? What happens within us when a thought is emerging and a thought is diminishing, and when one is superseded by the other, or when thoughts intercept each other? This is called the interplay of Shakti. Harmony between the positive and negative forces. In Hatha Yoga, there is a concept of harmonizing the twofold Shaktis or energies in man, because they normally remain in an unbalanced or unharmonized form. Either the Prana Shakti is predominant and the mental Shakti is subservient, or the mental Shakti is predominant and the Prana Shakti is subservient. So in our tradition, we learn it as Ida and Pingala, Nadi, like in Ayurveda, they talk about like the really activated state of the nervous system or the really passive state of the nervous system. So due to this imbalance, either the physical diseases occur or mental diseases manifest. When prana is subservient to mental Shakti, then people are driven to bouts of insanity. They're admitted to mental hospitals and lunatic asylums. This is because they have too much mental Shakti and too little prana Shakti to balance it. When prana Shakti is predominant and the mental Shakti is subservient, then you will find people becoming angry, quarreling, creating wars, causing murders, committing crimes, and all sorts of violent behavior. This is the effect of unbalanced prana Shakti. The concept in Hatha Yoga, therefore, is to bring about harmony between these two great forces known as Ida and Pingala. In Hatha Yoga, first of all, the purification of the whole body mechanism, the physical complex, takes place. You should always keep in mind that the body, the mind, and the spirit are not three, they are one. At one level of existence, you see the body. At another level, you perceive it as the mind. You should never consider spirit as different from body and body different from spirit. They are one. Transcendence through training. The basis of the body is divine. Therefore, through the practices of yoga, a process of transmutation of the physical elements of the body into non-physical elements takes place. Matter is convertible to energy and vice versa. This is the underlying concept. Similarly, the body is convertible into spirit and spirit is convertible into matter. This is the eternal play of Maya, the power of illusion and creation. It has been happening eternally. Therefore, there is no reason why anyone should think that this body is impure and say that he will not meditate. This is a very unscientific way of thinking. We have examples in history, which you may or may not believe, of great saints who at the time when they wanted to leave this earthly existence, transmuted their body into light particles and then completely disappeared. Yeah, have you heard about that spontaneous combustion? That's a whole rabbit hole on Google. They just leave their shoes behind. There was nothing left of their gross physical body. This body is not just flesh and bone, nor just marrow and myriads of secretions, but it is a gross manifestation of the very subtle Shakti, polarized into prana and manas Shakti. Manas is mind, Shakti. Therefore, in Hatha Yoga, first of all, we take care of the body and purify it by 6 methods. The most important point is that the nadis have to be purified. Nadis are energetic rivers in the body for the purpose of meditation. Our body functions along very simple lines. Just as machines produce waste, likewise our body continuously produces waste. These wastes are of three types: mucus, gas, and acidity. Lovely. If we cleanse the body internally from time to time, the excess of these three metabolic products are removed and their formation is regulated and balanced. Then perfect health can be maintained. It is in the sense that the shock karmas are of very great importance. Cleansing the body of the three types of imbalances in the system is an important aspect of Hatha Yoga and therapy. In the process of Hatha Yoga, total training has to be imparted in every part of the body, to the nose, heart, respiratory system, circulatory system, and so on. For example, the body has to be made free from any erratic behavior of the heart. The cardiac behavior has to be changed. As a preliminary to meditation, there has to be a change in unconscious response of the heart. Otherwise, if you are a good meditator and if you concentrate on one point, then the moment meditation takes place, the coronary behavior will change and certainly the body will have to suffer. Not only that, but the nervous system must also be trained because the carrier of impulses through the sensory and motor channels. For an uninterrupted flow of energy to pass throughout the body, it is vital that all blockages are removed, because if they are not, then in meditation you will have the worst sorts of abnormal manifestations. Many people who have these experiences say, "What is all this? Meditation should be full of beauty and serenity." Meditation is supposed to be graceful and very attractive. It is not supposed to be frightening or annoying or disturbing. If it is beautiful as flowers and serene as a full moon, then why don't I experience it like that? This is what they say. Meditation is blissful. It is total bliss, inside and outside also, providing that the correct approach to purification has been made. There are other people who say, "Oh, I am spiritual. I don't care about the physical body. Hatha Yoga only makes you body-minded." What is this nonsense? When you are spiritually minded and you sit for meditation, then, when meditation is taking place, you'll become aware of your body very forcefully. You may even have to go to a doctor because you may not be able to control it. To transcend the body does not mean to just forget about it. You have to purify it. Therefore, these 6 kriyas of Hatha Yoga, Neti, Dauti, Basti, Nauli, Kapalabhati, and Tritaka, are necessary for spiritual aspirants. Concentration depends on purification. These then are basic Hatha Yoga kriyas, which tend to purify the energy patterns and bring a balance between them. When these patterns are well under control, then you can force your mind onto one point. Otherwise, what happens when you try to concentrate on a circle? You start to get a faint image of a circle, but then it starts to change its shape. It becomes elongated, it becomes oval, it starts to break asunder, it starts to go completely out of order. You are not able to form a perfectly steady image of the circle because the nature of the pranas is fluctuated and the characteristic of the mind is in motion. Prana can never be motionless. The pranas are always moving and the mind is ever changing as well. These two highly mobile energies have to be brought into a steady state. You can barely imagine how difficult it is. Concentration is extremely difficult. You may say anything. You may say that you can forget yourself completely, but that is not concentration. You may be able to steer yourself with ease amongst the visions, but that is not concentration. Concentration is unbroken awareness of the point at all times, like one line stretching into a far distance. It does not break, it does not turn, it does not reverse, it is not intercepted. It is unbroken and steady. One idea, the same idea. No other idea, no other thought. That is concentration, and it should happen by itself. So that's page 11. I think with time, I should probably pause there. Is there a moment for thoughts?
I don't have thoughts related to the topics, but it was so nice. I felt like a little kid being read to, like a fairy tale. I loved it. Like when you were like, "Do you want me to keep going?" I was like my body reacted before I could even think. And I just thought about like the power of reading to a child. It's nice to be read to as an adult. I mean, it was read to in the sutras, but it was like more reading to like interact. This was just like reading to listen, and practicing what we were talking about yesterday was just like, let me just listen.
It had me think about like all the things that you have to do. I'm like, man, that's a lot of work. And then I went back, I'm like, that's YTT. No wonder we're all like halfway through it, and then you kind of start settling into it.
Yeah, it's making me feel like I need to make them do more purification practices in YTT, and maybe they won't have such a nervous breakdown.
I can't do, I tried doing the turning of the stomach. Which one is that? That starts with a letter N?
Nowly.
I can't do it. I can't, like, Renata tried to teach me. I can't figure it out for the
You have
life
to
of
do
me.
more Kapalabhati to get your core strong enough.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a weird one, but man, it gives you so much energy. I used to do that. I used to do it every morning before I had a baby. I got pregnant, and then you're not allowed to do it. I guess I could try starting it, but yeah, it's like when I stopped coffee, I started that, and it's like as strong as coffee. It's really gives you so much prana. It's crazy. I never did the one with the. I couldn't get myself to do the rubber tubing in my nose.
No, that I'm still traumatized by watching Amit do that.
It's supposed to like stimulate your pituitary, but
Yeah, it seems to look fun for him, and ugh. I feel like I'm as purified as I can get right now. I don't need a rope.
well, yeah, it's like an interesting concept, right? That it's an interesting concept because in other lineages, they're like in Bhakti, they're like just love God. You don't have to do anything else, and then all those other things will come. But like you see in these traditions, so many problems arising, like in the history of like ISKCON. There's like the mind in some of these people is like very, very broken, and they come to it seeking relief and they think they found it, but their mind is still broken and they end up doing these like atrocious behaviors. I don't know, like in the Jnana tradition, they talk about a lot of this just in a different context. Especially in Raja's like the royal yoga, they say you have to do all of the limbs, and this is like the asana limb, which is why I was excited to read it because I usually spend more time on the intellectual pursuits. But I get it. Like at the time in my life when I was like most Swami-ish, I was doing all of it. And man, it takes a lot of time, right?
Sure does.
All of that.
Well, I was just telling Pam, my practice has been, I haven't taken a full class since Mother's Day. It makes me want to cry.
Aww.
But I do my meditation, I go in the sauna, and I do yin, and it's very short yin, but I do like 2 things of yin every day.
That's good.
So it's
That's
like
something.
so it's like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, like to do it all like every day, that makes me think of like when we do the cleanse, live like that every day. When we do the cleanse, like the real cleanse, the real way, getting up at 4:30 in the morning.
That is how they want you to live. It's just, we're householders, so.
I was gonna say, I'll just lose my husband, my kids, and working forever.
I've been trying to make it where like, before oh my God, I was so sick last week. I don't know what was, I got like some fever. I don't know what was wrong with me. I'm obviously imbalanced. This is like the season for me to be imbalanced, but like I made this whole ridiculous schedule of like, as soon as I wake up, this is what I have to do. This is what the baby has to do. And I made sure there was like yoga practice in there. So she was starting to do it with me. You just have to maybe have like family yoga time. I mean, like asana time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, but like it's also too much for one person to do in one day. I think that's why.
No, that's not awesome. I meant her doing it with you.
Yeah, right? It's like instead of whatever kids, she loves it. Whatever kids want to do. We put on Patabi Joy on YouTube, and she was like watching, trying to all along the Ashtanga.
That's so cute.
Cute. I feel like regular Hatha though is I don't know, this will be interesting. He's got like the poses broken down. I think this will be interesting because I think it's more simplistic than the kind of yoga we offer. Like not as many postures, probably wouldn't even take as long, right? Well, we'll see. Any other thoughts?
We do have to move into breath and meditation.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 8:10.
Jackie, you got to work today?
School hadn't actually started. I've been in the building every day trying to organize and sort things out, but I'm not actually required to be there. I won't get paid to be there till next week.
Oh, okay. It's been nice to see your face. All right.
Next week I won't be able to come because starting, I don't know, Tuesday, I think.
Okay.
Tuesday I start.
We'll put the videos on YouTube so you can watch along at your convenience. All right, so let's start with bumblebee breath. So you could take your fingers over your eyes and do 5 rounds. Take your peace fingers over your eyes and cover your ears with your thumbs. Inhale deeply and then exhale out of the nose, making a buzzing sound. We can do skull shining breath. So you'll pump the belly for 30. Inhale all the way and exhale all the way. Inhale halfway. Exhale all the way out. Inhale halfway. Inhale all the way. Exhale all the way out. And do one more time. Inhale all the way. Exhale all the way out. Take your hand. We're going to fold the peace fingers into the center of the palm and then close off the right nostril. Alternate nostril breathing. Close off the left nostril with your ring finger. Inhale through both. Exhale through both. Closing off the right nostril. Inhale. Closing off both. Exhale. Inhale through the right. Closing off both. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Closing off both. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Closing off both. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Closing off both. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Closing off both. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Closing off both. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Closing off both. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Closing off both. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Closing off both. Exhale through the left. Breathing naturally. And coming into your meditation practice. Bringing the hands to prayer, bowing the head. Namaste. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if anyone else has the book. Not yet. I can read tomorrow then. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Bye.